It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
This first question is from Denise. And Denise, this is a YouTube question. She said, if you had a crystal ball and you saw another 2008, 2009 looming on the horizon, I'm assuming she's talking about from like a downturn standpoint, what adjustments would you make today, if any, to your retirement portfolio when just 2 to 3 years until retirement? So it sounds like Denise is a few years away from retirement, but she's like, man, if I knew that next year was going to be 2008, what should I be thinking about or what should I be changing? How would you advise her? What sort of counsel would you give to Denise as she's entering in this new stage?
I think this is a great question, and for several reasons, because the narrative, and look, I get it, guys. Right now, it is so hard to invest without taking risk. I mean, because there's all kind of research out there that because interest rates are so low right now, it's pushing everybody to take more and more risk to try to get that return, that total return, that you feel like your money's not losing in value, especially as we face inflation and other things that are pulling on the value of what conservative holdings can do for you. But this is the part that I think is troubling in the trend I see, is because everybody's been pushed out on the risk spectrum. I see people who are saying and posting publicly that they're going to stay 90-10, 90% aggressive assets like index funds and so forth, 10% conservative all the way through their retirement. And that sounds good on paper when everything is working in your favor, but I always think about that slide that Daniel and I were working on where it shows the power of diversification, where it's not always how much you make, it's also how much you get to keep in those horrible downturns. And Denise brought up 2008 to 2009 to give perspective, because we have had enough time pass. I think a lot of people have forgotten that for the year, the S&P 500 lost 37% in 2008. But that doesn't tell the full story, because that's for the full year. If you just brought it into really that end part of third quarter and fourth quarter of 2008, there were periods where it was down over 50%.
Yep.
And that's if you're a person that's retiring in 2 to 3 years, that ought to petrify you. And petrify you in a good way, because it means hopefully it will drive you to proactive action right now. Because here's what I would tell you about asset allocation and adjustments. I don't care if we are facing a 2008 type collapse, or if we have actually the good recovery of a 2009 without the collapse of 2008. You still should ask yourself the exact same question Denise is doing, because this is why your asset allocation will change and evolve over time, because your goals for each pot of or asset allocation structure that you structure your investments with changes. So, I mean, when you're young, you get so excited about volatility, or you should. So you should be aggressive, because you have so many more years of saving and investing that when the stock market goes down, you should actually kind of start rubbing your hands together going, goody, goody, goody.
Yep.
I should be excited about this because I'm buying lower shares when I have so many years ahead to get all that compounding growth. The problem is when you get to 2 to 3 years from retirement, you now have a new risk to worry about. It's not just risk tolerance on what you can handle emotionally anymore. It's now what's called risk capacity, which is how fast or how long you can sustain your portfolio getting beaten up and not needing to pull assets out before you actually need to use them. Because let's say you're pulling money out for retirement, but you're pulling out when the stock market's down 30 to 50%, you're eating principal, and you're also eating away at a much faster pace than if you didn't have to touch it and you could let the money recover. And that's why we talk about risk capacity, is because if you're somebody who if you know an aggressive portfolio might take 3 years to recover to get back to zero, but your life expectancy or what you can count on for retirement is 10 to 15 years.
Don't have the time.
Those two, you don't have the time for all those things to work together. That's why I would tell you right now, Denise, don't create a portfolio thinking about the next 2008. Create a portfolio that actually reflects your goals, your needs. So it's kind of like, I've used this analogy before, is that you have different seasons of investment. We're kind of in the latter parts of summer, where everybody just loves the warm weather. You love the sunshine. You love the blue skies. But in the downturns of the bear markets are like, they're the winter, the coldest of the winters, where it's just miserable to go outside because you immediately, your fingers get cold and everything else. You need to dress appropriately when you're 2 to 3 years from retirement. That doesn't matter if it's sunny outside, if it's cold outside. You have an all-purpose structure that gets you through. You have enough liquidity and unrisked assets that it gets you through those periods that it's down, but you also have enough so that when you have the 20, 30, 40 years of retirement, that you still are getting some growth and appreciation. It's more of an all-weather, all-season type asset allocation. I want you to do that now. Don't worry about 2008. Worry about what's the all-season structure, and that's what I'm going to tee it up for Bo to kind of close out this question is, that's when maybe you need to take the relationship to the next level and close out the abundance cycle.
Yeah, what's really, really interesting is, we were doing this back in 2008 and 2009, and the market, like Brian said, lost 37%. It was a pretty scary time. Well, almost every client that has become a client of our firm since then has had some version of this statement. Whew, the market's done pretty good. I'm getting a little nervous, right? And so imagine that. Like in 2009, it rebounded, and they were looking for the second drop. And then 2010 and 11 and 12, 2013 was a great year. And then 14, 15, 16, all the way to 18, 19. It's been a really, really strong market. And so one of the things that we tell clients is we don't know when the next downturn is going to be. It may be 6 months from now, and it may be 6 years from now. You want a portfolio that's set up that whether it goes up 20% from here or down 20% from here, for your unique situation, it is set up correctly for what you hope to accomplish. It is difficult to make those adjustments, and this is what I think is really, really interesting, and I think it surprises a lot of folks. We don't think that portfolio adjustments happen rapidly. It's not like you are an 80-20 portfolio the day before you retire, and then you become a 20-80 portfolio. What actually happens is there's sort of a glide path where about 5 years out, you should begin to naturally make some adjustments. And then even as you get 5 years into retirement, you should continue making adjustments. So it is a slow change in your portfolio makeup. It's not an apple cart turnover. And I think a lot of people try to approach it as though it were. Well, you said, Brian, your portfolio doesn't need to just last for the first year of retirement or first 3 years of retirement. It needs to last for most folks 20, 30, even 40 years. So you have to make sure the way that you approach that is well thought out and well strategized, because a really, really good plan will be good before the downturn, it'll be good during the downturn, and it will continue to be good after the downturn. Now, for a lot of folks who are approaching that time, that's a great place where it might make sense to take your relationship to the next level. We love helping folks figure out, am I ready for retirement? How do I cross that threshold? And then how do I move in and through it seamlessly, no matter what the financial world throws at me? So if that's something you're interested in, you can definitely check out our website, moneyguide.com, check out the firm website, aboundwealth.com, and we would love to talk with you about that.